What if I told you that something's sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now, something you probably paid less than $1 for, could bring back erections you thought were gone for good? Most guys over 50 assume the only options are little blue pills, injections, or just accepting it. But I've spent over 30 years working in men's hormonal and urological health, and I can tell you that assumption is flat out wrong. Your body hasn't given up. It just needs the right conditions to respond again. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I'm Dr. Olivia Grant. For more than 30 years, I've been working with men specifically on hormonal balance, circulation, and urological health. I've seen thousands of patients walk into my office defeated, convinced their best years were behind them. And I've seen those same men walk out with a completely different story. Today, I want to share one of the most underrated, most overlooked tools I use with my patients. It's cheap. It's already in your kitchen. And when used correctly, it can genuinely change things. That tool is baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Hear me out. Before we talk about the solution, you need to understand what's actually happening in your body after 50. Because this isn't just about getting older. This is about chemistry. Your blood and tissues have an ideal pH level of around 7.4. That's slightly alkaline. When you're young, your body regulates that balance pretty easily. But as the decades go by, things shift. Poor diet, stress, lack of movement, too much processed fast food, all of it pushes your body toward acidity. Your pH can drop to 6.8, sometimes even lower. And when that happens, a cascade of problems begins. Acidic conditions cause your blood vessels to tighten. Blood flow slows down. And here's the big one. Your body's production of nitric oxide drops significantly. Now, if you've never heard of nitric oxide, let me explain why it matters. Nitric oxide is essentially the molecule that makes erections possible. It signals the smooth muscle in your penile tissue to relax, which allows blood to rush in and create an erection. No nitric oxide, no erection. It's that simple. And in an acidic environment, your body can't produce it efficiently. So what does sodium bicarbonate do? It's one of the most potent natural alkalizing agents available. When you take it correctly, it helps neutralize excess acidity in your body, brings your pH back toward that ideal 7.4 range, and creates the internal environment where nitric oxide can do its job. Blood vessels dilate, blood flow increases, and for a lot of men, morning erections, which most guys over 50 have stopped expecting, start coming back. Now let me tell you about a patient of mine. I'll call him David. He's 63, lives in Phoenix, Arizona. Retired firefighter, tough guy, not the kind of man who talks about this stuff easily. He came to me after 5 years of erectile dysfunction. He'd been on Viagra for 3 of those years, but the side effects were making his life miserable. Headaches so bad he had to lie down. Nasal congestion, chest tightness. He told me, "Doc, the cure is worse than the problem." He'd read something online about baking soda and came to me half embarrassed, half desperate, asking if there was any truth to it. We checked his urinary pH first thing in the morning, a simple test you can do at home, which I'll explain in a moment, and it was sitting at 6.2. That's quite acidic. So we started a sodium bicarbonate protocol together. I want to be very clear. We did this carefully with monitoring, and I'll give you the exact dosing in a moment. 3 days after starting, David called my office. He said, "Dr. Grant, I woke up this morning and it was back. First time in years." He was emotional. His wife called the office too. That's the kind of moment that reminds me why I went into medicine. Now, before I give you the protocol, let me address something I hear from a lot of you, and based on questions I see from people all the time. What kind of baking soda are we talking about? This matters. You want food-grade sodium bicarbonate. The stuff in the orange box at the grocery store, sold for baking and cooking, that's the one. Not industrial grade. Not the kind sold for pool maintenance or cleaning. Food grade only. And yes, baking soda and baking powder are different things. Baking powder has added ingredients. You want pure sodium bicarbonate, plain and simple. Here's the protocol I use with my patients, what I call the morning and evening approach. In the morning, on an empty stomach, mix a 1/4 teaspoon of food-grade sodium bicarbonate into an 8-ounce glass of warm water. Stir it well and drink it immediately. Take it about 30 minutes before breakfast. One important note, do not add lemon juice to this. I know some people recommend it, and I understand the appeal. Lemon has its own health benefits, but lemon is acidic, and it will directly neutralize the alkalizing effect of the baking soda. You're undoing the whole point. Just warm water. In the evening, about 2 hours before you go to bed, take a second, smaller dose, just 1/8 of a teaspoon in a half glass of warm water. The evening dose matters because nighttime is when your body does its most important repair work. Testosterone production, tissue recovery, circulation restoration, all of that happens while you sleep. If your pH is alkaline during those hours, those processes work at maximum efficiency. If it's acidic, they're suppressed. Now, here's something I need to be very direct about, because I've seen people go overboard with this. Do not exceed half a teaspoon of sodium bicarbonate total per day. More is not better here. Excessive amounts can cause digestive problems, reduce stomach acid to the point where you're not absorbing nutrients properly, and the sodium content can put strain on your kidneys and raise blood pressure. Moderation and consistency. That's the key. This isn't a situation where you double the dose to get double the results. You'll just make yourself sick. I also want to address something specific for those of you who are diabetic or managing blood pressure issues, because this comes up constantly. If you have type 2 diabetes, you can potentially use this protocol, but with a few important caveats. Diabetes already affects circulation and nitric oxide production in ways that overlap with what we're discussing, so the alkalizing effect can be helpful. However, the sodium content in baking soda is something diabetics need to monitor, especially if you're also managing kidney function. Talk to your doctor before starting. Show them this protocol. Don't just wing it. The same goes for anyone on blood pressure medication. Sodium bicarbonate contains sodium, which can interact with the antihypertensives and potentially cause your pressure to spike. This isn't a reason to avoid it, but it is a reason to be smart about it. If you have any existing kidney disease, please consult your physician before trying this. Your kidneys regulate pH balance, and if they're already compromised, introducing extra alkalizing agents needs medical supervision. Now, about measuring your pH at home. Another question I get constantly. You do not need to go to a lab for this. You can buy pH testing strips online or at most health food stores for just a few dollars. What you want to do is test your first morning urine. That's the most accurate reading of your body's overnight pH. Dip the strip, wait the number of seconds indicated on the packaging, and compare the color to the chart. You're looking for a reading between 7.0 and 7.5. If you're coming in at 6.5 or below, your body is running acidic and you'll benefit most from this protocol. If you're consistently above 7.5, your body is already alkaline. You'd want to reduce or skip the dosing. Check your pH in the morning once a week. It gives you a simple, real-time way to track whether what you're doing is actually working. No lab coat required. Now, for some of my patients, I add what I call the bicarbonate bath as a complement, not a replacement, to the oral protocol. My patient Robert, 67, from Dallas, started taking warm baths with a cup of baking soda dissolved in the water 3 times a week. He'd soak for about 20 minutes. Sodium bicarbonate absorbs through the skin and has a systemic alkalizing effect. Robert told me his erections improved, his lower back pain decreased, and his energy levels went up. He also mentioned his prostate discomfort, which had been nagging him for years, got noticeably better. I'll be honest, the bath approach works for some men and doesn't make a big difference for others, but the risk is essentially zero, so it's worth trying. The baking soda protocol works best when it's part of a broader approach. Here's what I tell all of my patients. Water first. Drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. Baking soda has a water retention effect in the body, and if you're dehydrated, you'll feel it. Headaches, fatigue, bloating. Stay hydrated. Potassium matters. Sodium bicarbonate adds sodium to your system, and sodium needs to be balanced by potassium. Eat bananas, avocados, sweet potatoes, and spinach regularly. This isn't optional, but it's part of the protocol. Cut the acid. Sugar, white flour, processed meats, alcohol, sodas, all of these acidify your body and directly undercut everything you're trying to do with the baking soda. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be intentional. Go green. Leafy vegetables, kale, spinach, arugula, broccoli, are naturally alkaline and work in synergy with sodium bicarbonate. Make them a daily staple. Get outside and move. A 20-minute walk at lunchtime does more for your pH balance, circulation, and testosterone levels than most supplements on the market. Exercise is one of the most powerful pH regulators your body has. Before bed, consider magnesium. Magnesium glycinate, or magnesium citrate, works in synergy with sodium bicarbonate to support overnight testosterone production and muscle relaxation. It's one of the most underused supplements in men's health. Let me tell you about another patient. I'll call him Charles, 67, from Atlanta. Charles came to me with ED, but also with stubborn belly fat and borderline high blood pressure. He started the morning baking soda protocol and combined it with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Now, and this is important, you don't mix them together at the same time if you're trying to maximize the alkalizing effect of the baking soda. Charles would take his baking soda in the morning and separately add apple cider vinegar to his salad at lunch. 6 weeks later, not only had his erections improved significantly, but he'd lost about 8 pounds of abdominal fat and his blood pressure had come down to a range his cardiologist was much happier with. Now, I can't attribute all of that entirely to baking soda. Charles also cleaned up his diet and started walking every evening. But the protocol was the catalyst that got him started. Here's what you can realistically expect if you start this correctly. In the first day or two, most men notice an uptick in energy. Not a dramatic caffeine-like buzz, just a cleaner, steadier energy through the day. By day 3, many men start noticing morning erections returning, or getting noticeably firmer if they hadn't fully disappeared. In the first week, spontaneous erections during the day become more common. By the second week, erections during sexual activity are stronger and more reliable. At the 1-month mark, most men who have followed the protocol consistently report their maximum benefit. This isn't a one-dose miracle. It's a cumulative process, and consistency is everything. I want to share one more story because it stuck with me. His name was Paul. 68 years old, retired engineer, lived outside of Chicago. Paul had been on Viagra since he was 55. 13 years. He was spending close to $400 a month out of pocket because his insurance wouldn't cover it anymore. He was embarrassed about it, felt dependent on it, and hated the way it made him feel, flushed, headachy, and somehow less like himself. Paul was skeptical when I presented this protocol. Engineers don't like things that aren't proven, but he was also fed up, so he tried it. 1 month later, Paul called my office and said, "I haven't taken a Viagra in 3 weeks and everything is working fine." He said he was spending about $2 a month on baking soda. $2. He laughed when he said it, and honestly, so did I. Paul stayed on the protocol for another 6 months, and at his last check-in with me, he said something I've never forgotten. "I feel like myself again. Not a medicated version of myself, actually myself." That's what this is about for me. Not replacing one dependency with another. Giving men the conditions their bodies need to function the way they're supposed to. A few additional things worth knowing. Some men ask about combining sodium bicarbonate with turmeric. And yes, there's a logical basis for that. Turmeric has well-documented anti-inflammatory properties, and chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the contributors to poor circulation and reduced nitric oxide production. Adding half a teaspoon of turmeric to warm water alongside your baking soda dose in the morning isn't going to hurt anything and may add benefit. Green tea is another good complement. The antioxidants in green tea support nitric oxide production and vascular health. If you're a coffee drinker, consider swapping one of your daily cups for green tea. Some of my patients ask about applying sodium bicarbonate topically, mixed with coconut oil as a massage. And while I understand the appeal, the evidence for transdermal absorption affecting erectile function specifically is much weaker than the evidence for oral use in baking soda baths. Stick to the oral protocol and the bath as your primary approaches. Now let me be real with you about something because I think you deserve honesty more than hype. Baking soda is not a pharmaceutical. It does not work the same way Viagra works. Viagra directly blocks a specific enzyme to force blood vessel dilation. Sodium bicarbonate works upstream at the level of your body's internal chemistry, creating conditions that allow your natural mechanisms to function. That means it works best for men whose ED is circulation related and pH related, which is the majority of men over 50. If your ED has a purely mechanical or neurological cause, or if you've had prostate surgery with nerve damage, this protocol alone may not be sufficient, and you should be working directly with a urologist. But for the vast majority of you, men in your 50s, 60s, 70s whose erections have gradually faded, who feel like something broke somewhere along the way without any dramatic event, The answer may genuinely be in your kitchen cabinet. Your body hasn't forgotten how to do this. The chemistry has just gotten out of balance, and you can fix that. Here's your complete daily plan. Wake up, drink a full glass of warm water before anything else. This activates your metabolism and starts hydrating you for the day. 30 minutes later, take your morning dose. A quarter teaspoon of food-grade sodium bicarbonate in 8 ounces of warm water. Straight, no lemon. Have a breakfast with alkaline-friendly foods. Avocado, almonds, spinach, eggs. At lunchtime, get outside for a 20-minute walk. Your body needs movement to balance pH and stimulate circulation. 3 hours after dinner, take your evening dose, 1/8 of a teaspoon in a half glass of warm water. Before bed, take your magnesium supplement. Once a week, test your first morning urine with a pH strip and track your progress. If you want to add the bath protocol 3 times a week, warm bath with 1 cup of baking soda dissolved in the water. Soak for 20 minutes. Keep it up for at least 4 weeks before you judge the results. The most common mistake I see is giving up after 5 or 6 days because the results aren't dramatic enough. Give it a full month. The men who see the biggest changes are the ones who stay consistent. Drink enough water, cut back on acidifying foods, and treat this like the genuine health protocol it is, not a party trick. Everything I've just described costs you maybe $2 or $3 a month. The testing strips are a one-time purchase of a few dollars. The lifestyle changes cost you nothing except some intention. For 30 years, I've watched men spend thousands of dollars chasing solutions to a problem that in many cases comes down to basic body chemistry. The solution was never complicated. It was just overlooked. I'm Dr. Olivia Grant. If this video was helpful, subscribe to this channel. Every week I share information about men's health that most people never hear about. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what your morning pH reading is and how the protocol is going for you. Let's learn from each other. Your body has the ability to heal. Give it the right conditions and it will.